more for you, you feel it. You know it. This is your life, and it's time to go from contender to champion. This is The Show with John Madsen.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. I'm your host, John Madsen. This is The Show. Super excited to be here. It's Thanksgiving. I'm doing an episode on Thanksgiving so that you guys can get the episode tomorrow. This was a crazy week. I woke up and I was like, damn it, I didn't record the show. And not recording it is not an option. So I kissed the baby and kissed the wife and said, I know it's Thanksgiving, but I got to run to the office. I got to rip a show, and here I am. So hopefully this one hits because it is Thanksgiving. This idea of gratitude is on my mind. Not that it isn't all the time, but this is just a truly special day, one of my favorite holidays. And this episode, because I'm recording it on Thanksgiving, is going to be about gratitude. But it's not going to be just one of those episodes that you leave saying, oh yeah, gratitude is nice, I should be more thankful. I'm going to go into the 5 things that steal a person's gratitude on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. So there's five things that are stealing your gratitude right now. I'm also going to talk about what gratitude is not, and I'm going to talk about what gratitude is. Before I do that, I want you to just know how grateful I am for you, the listeners of the show, the supporters of the show, the ones that have gone to iTunes and left a 5-star review, to my friends who have texted me after certain episodes and said, John, dude, that episode hit. I shared it with my team. Thank you so much. To those who screenshot it and tag me on Instagram, thank you, because doing that little thing brings even more awareness to the people that you have influence over. So I truly, truly appreciate it. The show is free. I do it out of passion, and I do it because I want to get this message out and I want to have impact. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And I hope you guys had, by the time you listen to this show, an amazing Thanksgiving spent with family and friends, and took a moment out of a really busy life and a really crazy life sometimes to just be grateful for all the things that you have. So let's dive in. Driven personalities. And I know this because I have one. Ambitious personalities, people who want to achieve. I notice a theme sometimes where everything that happens in your day is like a to-do list, right? And so you do the morning routine and you have to do this and this and this and this. And then you have an evening routine. Some of you should, and you have to do this and this and this. And sometimes you get in the habit of just going through the motions and not being intentional. So a lot of times somewhere along that morning routine or evening routine, people have what's called a gratitude list. And a lot of times, and I used to do this because I'd listen to people that were successful. I'd listen to mentors and they'd say, John, write down 5 things that you're grateful for a day, or write 10 things that you're grateful for a day. And I'd be like, awesome. And so I just go through the motions, be like, I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my daughter. I'm grateful for this cup of coffee. And you go through it, but that's just writing. You're not feeling it. And so you're missing the whole point. Gratitude isn't a to-do list. Gratitude is a feeling. It's an emotion. And it's one of the highest vibrating frequency emotions that you can feel. Gratitude is high frequency, high vibration. But in order to maximize that, you actually have to feel it in your core. You have to feel it in your soul. So writing down 5 things that you're grateful for and not taking a second to really embody the feeling and just going through the motions is a trap that high performers get into, because they're told they should have a gratitude list and they think they're doing gratitude by having a list, but that's not at all what gratitude is. So I want you to understand this, write this down or burn it into your soul. Gratitude is the gateway to abundance. Gratitude is the gateway to manifestation. If you can tap into true gratitude, which is the emotion and feeling, not some of the time, but all of the time, you will attract an incredible life. Not to mention, high achievers also have this ability or have this focus on achieving more and more and more and more. And gratitude is a key piece here, because if you are unsatisfied, like I'm unsatisfied some of the time or a lot of the time, meaning I want to tap into my fullest potential. I want to see what I can become. I want to see how big of a business I can build. I want to see how much influence I can have. I want to see how much impact I can have. I want to see my income grow up, right? There's this missing component to some of you, that if gratitude, the feeling, right? Not the list, the feeling, if gratitude is missing, you are going to go through life in a way that is just void of bliss and happiness, because you're always going to be chasing. It's almost like that hamster on a wheel where you're just running and accumulating and chasing and for what, right? For what? If you have gratitude, you can be unsatisfied and still live in a state of bliss. But if you are unsatisfied and you don't live in a state of gratitude, you're going to be highly, highly, highly frustrated. You're always going to be chasing. There's never going to be enough. And so if you are going to be a driven personality and you are wanting to achieve, if you do this without embodying what I'm about to tell you, this feeling and emotion of gratitude, it's going to be a struggle. So the one thing that I have done, I think, pretty well with my personality is tapping into this feeling and emotion of gratitude while chasing my highest and best self. That's the secret. Let's dive into 5 things I wrote down today that I believe is robbing you of true gratitude in your life, which is then stopping and blocking you from experiencing the true abundance that's surrounding you all the time. The first thing, in my opinion, and this is incredibly hard nowadays, probably harder now today than ever because of what we have at our fingertips. Every single day that I wake up, the first thing that I almost do is grab my phone and then hit Facebook or Instagram. A lot of my business relies on Facebook and Instagram. Social media is a part of me sharing my life. It's a way for me to share impact. It's also the way that my business has grown. So it's very hard to not get into the habit of first thing in the morning checking the iPhone to see all the stuff that's going on there. But the first thing that's going to steal a person's gratitude is comparison. Comparison is the thief of all joy. Because even if you are listening to this show and you're like, damn, John, I saw this article Business Insider wrote up about you and your business is booming and all this stuff. Like, the idea is that you could think to yourself like, damn, I wish I was where John was at. And the funny thing about that is that I go on Instagram and I look at other people and I'm like, damn, I wish I was there. I wish I was in that circle. I wish those people were my friends. I wish I had a jet too. And all of a sudden, you forget about what you do have, what you have accomplished, what your own life is like, and comparison, and you start to compare yourself to people that you really don't know what they're going through. And at every level, they're probably doing the same thing unless they've thought about this and they have beaten it in a way. I don't know if you can ever truly beat it. I'm not sitting here saying that I don't ever feel comparison. That's why I'm saying it, right? I'm mentioning that you can't wish you were somebody else or wish you were over here and be grateful, right? That's stealing your gratitude. And so if we want to enhance our feeling and emotion of gratitude and operate with this super high vibration, we have to get out of this comparison mode. So if you're listening to the show and you're comparing your life to me, you don't really know the nuts and bolts of my life, right? And if I'm comparing myself to somebody else, I don't really know the what that person's relationship is like, what that person's relationship with their kids are like, what that person really goes through or thinks about, what type of stuff they battle with, right? Some people battle depression and anxiety, and some people, like in me and I've been very transparent in our life, one of the biggest battles me and my wife has gone through is this, is trying to have another baby, right? And so people don't understand what other families are going through. You just look on social media and you see the car and you see the new shit and you see the vacations, or you see this and you start to compare. So what I'm trying to tell you to do is, if you're going to really live in the state of gratitude, you have to be gracious about who you are, about your own life. You can't be wishing that you were somebody else. So the first thing that will still gratitude from you is this idea or game of comparison. We have to stop that shit. If you have kids, we have to get on it early, because they're growing up in a world that's a social media metaverse type world, and comparison is all around, right? So we have to learn this lesson for ourselves, and we have to make sure, damn sure, that our kids are armed to not battle this enemy. Enemy number 2 to gratitude is imposterism or imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you are worthy of something, or you don't feel like you belong, right? This in of itself is an enemy to this feeling of gratitude, because if you feel like an imposter, you're forgetting about your own gifts. You're forgetting about what you bring to the table and focusing on some of the stuff that you think you might not have. So one of my mentors, and this is kind of a paradoxical thing, right? It's like, we will feel comparison sometimes, right? We will feel imposter sometimes, but the real issue is that you can minimize it by going to war with it, meaning you don't let it stop you. So some people do have this comparison thing, but it doesn't stop them from moving and making steps and going for it, right? Same thing with this idea of imposter syndrome. Sometimes people feel this imposter syndrome and then they just stop. They don't go for their dreams. That inner bitch in their head is so loud, telling them what they're not and what they can't do, it just stops them, right? Sometimes imposter will show up, right? If you push yourself outside of your comfort zone, there's going to be times where you're like, damn, who am I to do this? And then all of a sudden you do it and you do it and you do it and you do it again, and no shit, you can do it, right? But so many people are just stopped because they let that stuff creep in, and it completely stops them. So again, when I'm going down this list, I'm going down it, and I'm not saying that it's realistic to never feel these things. I'm just saying that if you are going to embody this attitude of gratitude and you are going to ascend, you have to go through them, right? You have to go through them. You can't let any of this shit stop you. The third enemy to living with incredible gratitude is feeling undeserving, right? And this is kind of similar to imposter, but it's a little bit different. Imposter might be that you don't feel like you have the skill set or the knowledge or the experience to do something. This undeservingness might feel like there's tons of people that have had, incredible amounts of education, incredible amounts of certifications, incredible amounts of experience, and they don't feel that they deserve to have a certain type of life. Maybe because of the conditioning from society, or maybe it was the area they grew up in growing up. It was what their parents said. It was what their teachers said. And so they feel this undeservingness about taking the rewards that life is giving them. And if you feel undeserving, you can't be living in gratitude at the same time. So just to recap, the first 3, right, is comparison syndrome. Number 2 is imposter syndrome. Number 3 is feeling undeserving. Number 4, the fourth thing that is an enemy to living with gratitude is perfectionism. Perfectionism. I hope you're writing this shit down, right? Perfectionism is this idea that for whatever reason, you should be perfect in everything you do. That this podcast should be perfect, that I should never mess up, that I should never in 200 episodes have an episode that's like, that was okay, right? Guys, the people who win are about progress. Perfection is not an ideal for them, right? Perfectionism is something that is a very, very low standard. Perfectionism will kill so many dreams because you feel like you are entitled to not go through the process, right? if you want to win, you have to fall in. And my last episode was all about this. It was falling in love with the process. If you haven't listened to the episode right before this, I talk about this client of mine with 100 swings of a baseball bat on a swing. On a tee. And I talk about the 5-year plan of the bamboo tree, right? This is all about the process, not chasing perfection. When you chase perfection, you're shutting off gratitude. And number five is scarcity. So enemy number 5 to gratitude and having an attitude of gratitude is living in scarcity. Feeling like there's not enough. By definition, this is obviously shutting off that valve to gratitude. When you walk through life and you don't think there's enough money or you don't think there's enough anything, and everything you do is to save, you're telling the universe that you don't believe in its power to provide. When you live in a state of abundance, you're naturally more gracious, right? And so all of these things can be like blocking you from feeling gratitude. And that's my whole point here is gratitude is not a list. It's not let me write 5 things I'm grateful for. It's like, yes, you can do that, but you have to embody the feeling. You have to feel the emotion, right? You have to have gratitude for everything in your life, for the hardships, for the things that are good, right? It's really easy to be gracious when everything is going good. It's really hard to be gracious when you're learning a tough business lesson, right? It's really hard to be gracious when you're in a hurry and you hit every red light and you're like, what the heck, right? You don't know the reason sometimes things happen. So the only way that you can really, truly live with abundance and gratitude is you can choose to accept this idea that everything happens for you, not to you. And so if you're going through something hard, there's a lesson that needs to be learned. If you keep going through stuff that's hard and it's the same, you haven't learned a lesson. So all of this stuff ties together to create this immaculately successful life, but you're never going to get there if you let these 5 things steal this attitude of gratitude. And even if you did, even if you were successful and even if you were succeeding at a super high level, if you didn't embody gratitude, you will be that hamster on a wheel. You will be at some point burnt out. You will achieve all the stuff and all the goals, yet it will never be enough. With gratitude, it's always enough. Everything you need is here right now. You have it now. That's the feeling you go through life with and you start to attract and you start to manifest. That's living with this kind of flow state, effortlessness, where everything is like swimming with the current instead of against it. So I know that you're going to listen to this episode a day after Thanksgiving. If you listen to it tomorrow, or maybe you catch it, who knows when, and the show is new to you. This episode was recorded on Thanksgiving 2021, and I wanted to talk about gratitude in a way that makes you think about some of the things that could be stopping you from embodying this feeling and this emotion. Be thankful. When you wake up every single morning, see how many days in a row you can just thank whoever you're going to thank, right? Thank you, God. Thank you, universe. Thank you for everything that you've provided me, right? Because if you're listening to this podcast on your fucking iPhone, in the gym or going down in your, or driving in your car right now, chances are at this point in time, the amount of abundance that surrounds all of us, whether we've tapped into it or not, like we've never lived in a time like this, right? I told this story to my group the other day, and I'll end with this. My daughter knows what DoorDash is, right? She's 3.5 years old. She knows that with 2 pushes of a button, she can say DoorDash. With 2 pushes of a button, she can get a pizza delivered to her house in less than 30 minutes. What kind of sorcery, what kind of wizardry are we living in if we were to, 100 years back, say, hey, we were going to have a device like this and we can just push 2 buttons and food will just arrive on our doorstep. We don't have to go hunt it. We don't have to go kill it. We don't have to do anything. It's just going to arrive. And we forget about that stuff. We forget about all the stuff we do have, and we focus on all the stuff that's going wrong. When you live with gratitude and you start to take account for all of the amazing stuff that we have in 2021, you live differently, right? Most of America and most of the world are going to focus on all the stuff that they don't want. They're going to focus on all the bad stuff. They're going to focus on the scarcity. They're going to focus on the lack. And then they wonder why they can't manifest their dreams, right? And then the 3% of people who really figure this shit out, and they plant the right seeds, and they weed out all the bullshit that's in their minds, and they understand that gratitude isn't a list, but it's a feeling and it's an emotion. And they understand that the 5 things that I listed right here, comparison, imposter, undeserving, perfection, and scarcity, are robbing you from your ability to manifest and attract what you want. It starts with waking up every single morning and just saying thank you. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for joining us for another amazing episode of The Show with John Madsen. The greatest compliment that you could give us is liking, loving, and sharing this episode with all of your friends. So please go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and review, and then share it online with everyone that you know. Make sure to tag John as well. He loves to hear from listeners of the show. The links for all of his socials and iTunes are in the show notes. Also, if you'd like to engage John for anything related to his coaching, consulting, or programs, please visit johnmadsen.com for everything you'd need to know on how to engage with John offline. And lastly, thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. This is The Show.